you kind of teased that you had an idea of what a team should do on their bye week. And so let me tell you what Sean Payton's doing. He gave players Monday through Thursday off. Then they're back in the building to practice on Friday and Saturday. Then they'll have Sunday off, and then they're back in the building for a normal week of prep on Monday. Is that what you like to see, the way a team handle the bye week?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, the rest is important this time of the year. You've earned the rest. Okay, so you give them the 4 days, whatever that is. I mean, just hanging around the house and, playing with your dog or, playing with your kids, or whatever it is. You don't want guys to like take off to Cabo, and have a mini vacation. You don't want that to happen. But I have a feeling like those 4 days, come back and actually be ready to practice Friday and Saturday. And I'm sure it's going to be more than just putting on a helmet and walking through things. I'm sure Sean's going to, get physical with them a little bit, and then start Monday with a full week of preparation. I kind of like it because it gives them the rest. It gives them a chance to feel like they've earned this, because they did play on Sunday. Jacksonville played. They played all their guys. They were both competing for that number one spot. So the fact that they earned it, they won it. They took took care of business against the Chargers. I think it's a good week.
I'm curious. So during the regular season, practices are generally just throwing in the game plan. Like you're just getting ready for the team that you're playing that week. On Friday and Saturday, though, the Broncos won't know who they're going to play. So what do you get done in those practices when your opponent's still up in the air?
That's a great question. And I really believe that what you do is you really work hard on your fundamentals. It could be combo blocks. It could be handling, zone coverage against the bunch formation. It could be putting in new blitzes or tightening up blitzes that, have to be better and better timed. I just think it's getting off blocks. Like I think there'll be a 9-on-7 period, just working on the fundamentals of the game like you're at training camp. And you get 2 days to kind of really hone in on, just because you don't get that much of a chance. You work on fundamentals during individual drills to a degree, but you generally don't do it very live during the season. But I think this is a chance to get some live work in and really, really firm up and tighten up your fundamentals that are really important in any ball game against anybody you're playing.
Baldy, who do you think poses the biggest threat to the Broncos in the AFC?
Well, we saw Jacksonville go in there and take care of business a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, you can't really start that conversation without saying what Jacksonville did. And, we got a really, really bright coach in Liam Cohen, and what he's done to Trevor Lawrence this year is amazing, honestly. Like, I never thought I thought what we saw from Trevor is what we were going to see from Trevor. And now we're seeing a guy that is incredibly decisive, throwing the ball with incredible anticipation and accuracy, and he's a completely different player. And then Anthony Campanile on defense, like that defense is taking the ball away, and they're largely the same guys last year that would break down every week. Like it was a horror show watching that defense play. And now the communication is so much better, and they're playing with so much better confidence. So I think Jacksonville is the easy answer right now.
So saying that, Baldy, the good news for the Broncos is if that's the case, they will not have to play them in the first round or in the divisional round. The four teams that the Broncos could play in the divisional round, you got the Chargers, you have the Jags, you have the Bills, and you have the
Texans.
Yes, Texans, Steelers, Chargers, and Bills. Among those four teams, if you're the Broncos, who do you want and who do you not want in that first round?
I don't think I want Houston. I just don't think you want Houston. I mean, that defense is so nasty. Now, I know they gave up a lot of points, but they Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, they all went out of the game early in that game last week. And so, Indianapolis scored some points on them. But honestly, their record, outside of that game, their record this year when they scored 20 points was 15-1. Like, that's what they would be. Like, they lost games early when they couldn't score 20. But they're healthier now up front. I think it would be a very low-scoring game. I think Denver would have a hard time scoring, and I think Houston would have a hard time scoring. So then you get into a one-possession kind of game, and then it's a question of, does somebody turn the ball over? Is there a special teams miss? Does somebody miss a kick like they did for Baltimore, on Saturday night. Like, what happens where you could lose a game when it's that close? So I think Houston's that team just because of the way that they play. They're not difficult to put a game plan in. You know what they're going to do. They tell you what they're going to do. They're a 4-man front, single high safety. They lock you up on the outside, and they hit everything that moves. Like, I think that is the team that I'd be most worried about, in the second round.
And then, Baldy, on the flip side, I think everyone here in Denver wants the Steelers, if that could shake out that way. Would you agree with that, or would you give some pushback on the Steelers being the best choice for the Broncos in the first round?
Pittsburgh's had their share of issues. They'll get DK Metcalf back. And Aaron with DK is a little bit more explosive, although he made his plays last week. He's not gonna get away from the pressure that Denver can, that they can win with. They're playing a kid, Dylan Cook at left tackle right now. He's played really good for 3 weeks in a row. He's never played before. He's a free agent, bounced around this league for a while. But him against Nick Bonito, I think, if Aaron's under siege, he's just going to get rid of the ball quickly. And then you're just going to be able to pounce on whoever he throws the ball to. And it's been an issue. He just throws to his backs. Kenneth Gainwell doesn't even start for him. He's their leading receiver. Because that's what he wants to do. He just wants to get rid of the ball as quickly as he can without getting hit. Their secondary has been a real issue this year. Been a problem. They've got Cam Hayward's playing really well, and TJ made a big play last week, but they're not a great defense, and so I would say Pittsburgh. You'd want to see them at home.
Which game this weekend are you most excited to watch?
I think Buffalo and Jacksonville is really interesting to me in Jacksonville, because I think people just think, okay, Josh Allen, there's no Lamar, there's no Mahomes. There's, no Joe Burrow. It's an easy path, except it's not an easy path. Jacksonville is they're playing with as much confidence as anybody in this whole business, and I think, Jacksonville is good against the run. In fact, they're as good as anybody against the run, and that's what Buffalo does best right now. They've got the league's leading rusher in James Cook, but I don't think it's going to be easy for them. So I think that game, because of the matchup and what people really don't know about Jacksonville yet, they just kind of think, oh, Buffalo can go down there and win this game. Well, I don't think it's going to be very easy if Buffalo wins. I think it's going to be a dogfight. And I think actually Jacksonville is a better overall team. So I'm really intrigued to see that game.
I can't wait to watch that one either. Last one for me, Baldy. Do you think that Sean Payton has been playing it close to the vest for at least the last 2 weeks, kind of preparing for the playoffs, not trying to put too much on tape?
Yeah, sometimes I think he just takes games where let's play with our left arm tied behind our back. Like, I just think he does things like that. Like, there was a game a couple weeks ago. I forget which one it was. It was pretty recent, though. Like, they didn't have any explosive plays. Like, it was just check down city. It was just, it was a very conservative game plan, and it, worked out for them. But then, a couple weeks before that, they played Kansas City. It was bombs away, and it was the right game plan. And they got the explosive plays, and the one at the end to Pat Bryant, I think, to really, win the game. And so I think he has. I don't think he's playing mind games with his team. I think he wants to test his team to get ready for things that can come his way. The fact that Jaquan McMillan took that tip ball back to the house, that's the first defensive touchdown last week all year. Like, that was like commonplace last year. Like, you can't count on those things. But I think, the fact that they did that last week, I think that was, if Jaquan got a game ball, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I think that's what he wants. Take the ball away. Like, let's get into that game. Last year, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They took the ball away 13 times in 4 postseason games. Like, it set an NFL record. Like, that's what, we've talked about this before, but I do think he changes his approach, because to him, winning playoff games is important, especially for a young team. But he's in it to win it this year. Like, they have a good chance to win the Super Bowl this year. And it's going to be, he needs to push and pull in certain ways to get the most out of his players and to get the belief that his players have in doing these things. So I do think the mental component that Sean brings is different than a lot of coaches in this postseason.
I absolutely love it, Baldy. And final one for you. If the Broncos are going to win a Super Bowl, Bo Nix is going to be a big reason why. And since he entered the league, he has the most game-winning drives and fourth quarter comebacks in the entire NFL. It seems like he has a clutch gene. First off, do you believe in like having that clutch factor? And then second, does that mean that he's just going to take it up a level in the playoffs when every moment, every game is very important in clutch?
I absolutely believe he has a clutch gene. No, I totally believe that. Big play gene, big game genes. Some guys just don't have it. I believe he has it. Now we'll find out. He's only played one postseason game, and a loss to Buffalo. He didn't play poorly. They got off to a good start last year. So he's got to prove that, because ultimately all these quarterbacks get judged by how they play in the postseason. But so, comebacks during the regular season, they count, and you can add them up and say that. But I do think he's clutch. I also think, look, he's been sacked 22 times. He's thrown over 620 passes. If you do the math, he's getting sacked about once every 30 attempts. Everybody can live with that right there. But he's so elusive, and his ability to extend plays and not give up on plays, but extend plays. Because I think there's a big difference. You can just run around frenetically and, go get first downs. But he doesn't give up on plays. He's just extending plays. And I think that's a big part. He's a difficult guy to defend. And I think he's accurate enough and he makes good enough decisions that he can make the plays that are out there on the field. But I think he's a difficult guy to defend. And that's important when you get to this round of the playoffs, when you're going to see much better defenses week in, week out.
Man, Baldy, you got us fired up. The only issue is we have to wait 10, 12 days to see the Broncos play. But, Baldy, you enjoy the football this weekend, and we look forward to talking to you once we know the Broncos' opponent next weekend or next week.
Let's do it, guys. Yep. You bet, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Baldy. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Brian Baldinger, the legend. Man, those final couple answers he gave says Broncos have a great shot to win the Super Bowl, and then Bo's got that clutch gene to carry him in. I'm ready.
I have a big Bo Nix take after the break.
Let's hit it. I need to get to it. That's coming up next.